Danmirr Consultants and Professional Advice Bureau present Achievers.
We all dream of fame and success, but not all our dreams come true. What makes our achievers' dreams come true? Our achiever today is award-winning author Kishwar Desai. Kishwar has written the book Witness the Night that won 2010's prestigious Costa Book Award. Let's speak to Kishwar today. So nice to meet you, Kishwar.
Lovely
Thank you
to meet
so
you.
much.
Thank you for calling me.
Kishwar, your book Witnessing the Night has won the prestigious Costa Book Prize. And in this book, you have brought to light the gruesome injustice of infanticide, a substantial achievement. Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much.
Now, Kishwar, before we start discussing your book, I want to discuss what you did before you were an author and before you started writing. And really a jack of many trades. You were...
A Jill, maybe.
Exactly. A Jill of many trades. You were a producer, TV anchor, a journalist, a columnist. I mean, literally the queen of media. What attracted you to this particular field?
I think I always wanted to be able to communicate. I mean, that was something I was very keen on doing. Right as a little child, I used to be writing poetry, writing short stories, etc. So I suppose I was interested in all of that. But I think there was something about the visual medium that always attracted me. And I have to say my dream, which is as yet unfulfilled,
yes, please,
and I hope that is one thing I'll be able to do, is to make a film. And so I wanted to make this movie, which was in my mind for a long time. But then I got married. Quite young at that time. And
how old were you?
I was just 20 when I got married. That was my first marriage. Okay. And it was an arranged marriage, and then I had 2 children. And somehow the film just never got made. So I thought, instead, if I can't join the film industry, because by that time I had 2 children, and it was, difficult for me. Yeah, it would have been difficult for me to do something like that. So I thought, okay, television, because television was it was sort of a growing medium at that time in India. And even though there weren't very many spaces for women or places that you could go to anyway, I managed to get a job in television. And so I started, and I started as a producer of documentary films. And then I went on to join a very well-known channel called NDTV in India. They used to have a show called The World This Week. And I became a production controller, and then I became a producer, and then I became one of their reporters, a journalist. So I think I sort of went through the whole gamut of doing just about everything in television. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Meanwhile, my children were growing up, and
it was 30 years in media.
Yeah, exactly. So all that was happening, and the kids are growing up. And then, but the last 4 or 5 years, I have to say, I decided that I had done what I wanted to do in television, and really, there were no more challenges, and I wanted to do something which really was going to be something completely new for me.
A new chapter.
And I decided to write a book.
Yes. So we're going to definitely discuss your first book.
Yeah.
But before that, you married British economist and Labour Party politician, Lord Desai. How did you guys meet?
Well, it had to happen in a very unique way and through books, because I'd taken this decision to leave television, which I'd been doing for a long time, and joined the publishing industry, because I thought if I was in publishing, I could eventually start writing a book. And then that film idea had still not gone away from my mind.
Of course, it was still there,
it was still
festering
there.
away.
And I said, okay, maybe I'll start writing, I'll write a script, and then I'll end up making a film, etc. I joined the publishing world and very briefly worked with a publishing house in Delhi. And the first book that landed on my desk to edit was Meghnad's book. I'd never met him before. I didn't know who he was. I mean, I knew who he was, but I personally had no idea. And we met, and as I was his editor, and so we met just a few times, you know, very, very briefly.
And this is how long ago?
And this is about 7 years ago now.
Okay.
And he came to Delhi. And it was actually an India-China conference, you know, and he was delivering the keynote speech, and I just landed up there with my book and with his book, with the editing thing to be done to it. And I gave it to him and I said, "Can you please correct this, do that?" And that's how we met, and that was it. He went away, I went away. And I thought I would never see him again, in the sense
clearly
because,
you left an impression there.
No, so the next time he came, something happened. He just decided that for some reason I was the woman that he wanted to meet again, maybe get married to. And the funny thing is that both of us were still married to different people. We were not divorced. And but somehow he felt there was some kind of a connection, and he followed it up.
Oh, so sweet.
So we met because of a book, and actually it is a book he was writing on Dilip Kumar.
So it's been lucky
the book was very lucky for us. We met because of that.
And was Lord Desai very supportive of you when you said you wanted to write your first book?
Yes, well, that was one of his ideas, actually.
Really?
Because when we met, as you know, and the funny thing was that we had met in Delhi, and he came away to London, and then every day he started calling me up in Delhi to discuss a new book idea with me, you know, because I was in this publishing house.
You think it was just a way to call you?
It was a very good way for him to talk to me, you know. And obviously, you know, I said, here's this wonderful economist, and he wants to publish all these books. And so every day we would discuss one new idea, and you know, and he would come up, and the list was never ending. And it was fantastic. But then he started saying that, you know, these are books that we can do together. So, you know, you and I can write this together, because the whole idea was to somehow get me talking,
involved in a joint project.
In a joint project. So I said, how exciting. And he said, you know, we'll do a book on Nargis. So I said, fantastic. Anyway, we got together, we got married. And then one day I told him, what happened to all those books we were going to
you know? What was that
about? What was that about? So I think it was a little innocent, you know. Then the penny dropped. Oh, I see. You know, you only wanted to chat me up, you know. So so we decided to go out and write this book on Nargis.
And why the name Darling Ji?
Well, it's very sweet, you know.
It is.
And Nargis and Sunil Dutt had a lovely romance, you know. They always loved each other, truly. And many of their letters to each other are addressed as Love G. Everything has to have a G, because they were very polite to each other.
How long did it take for you to compile the whole book?
It took me a year, you know, to
research
a year and a half, I would say. It would take about 6 months for the research, and then about a year for the, you know, transcribing the material and then writing it, you know. So.
And following the success of Darling Ji, you realized that, yes, I have arrived.
I don't know. I don't think any author can ever claim that. No.
But I think you wrote your second book soon after.
I wrote it very
if
soon.
you didn't think you'd arrived then, you certainly should think you have arrived now, because you wrote Witnessing the Night, which has won the Costa Book Prize.
Yeah.
And I can only tell you from my own personal experience, I finished the book in 2.5 hours.
Wow, that is amazing.
It was an amazing read.
Yeah.
An amazing read. I could not put it down.
Wonderful. Thank you for saying that.
It was really, really good. Now, I read somewhere, I don't know if it's true or not, that you wrote the book in a month's time. Is it true?
Yes, unfortunately, and I think I shouldn't have ever admitted that. I should have actually said, oh, it took me years and years, you know, and I spent 40 years or whatever writing it. But it was the truth. You know, it was a story which I probably had started thinking of a long time back, because as a journalist, while I was working, you know, these were issues about women and the way they're treated in India used to make, I think it would upset any woman. It used to upset me. And so somewhere I think in my mind, I was putting away these little stories that people were telling me about their own lives and things. I personally have had a very lucky life. I mean, I come from a very liberal, you know, family, and they've always allowed me to do whatever I wanted to do. But I could see there were lots of women who were not so fortunate. So I think I started thinking about the story a long time back. But when I started writing it, we have a house in Goa, you know, so it's very quiet and very peaceful there. And we were there during the monsoon, so you really can't go anywhere because it's pouring rain. And Meghnad was writing his own book at one end of the house, and I was writing it at the end. It's a huge house, you know, it's an old Portuguese house. So he was at one end and I was at the other end at my desk. And I found once I started writing, I literally could not get up. Like you couldn't get up till you finished it. I couldn't get up till I had finished writing it, you know.
So did you do any research for this book? Like, was it infanticide is something that you were, that you were bothered by? Did you write the book just on those reasons, or was it maybe someone in your life who influenced you, or someone you met? What inspired you?
I think infanticide was something which always made me very angry. I mean, how can parents kill their own children in this day and age?
And for those people who don't know what infanticide means, it means killing your baby girl at birth.
Yeah, well, yes. It's now called gendercide, you know, which is where you actually select either the fetus or a full-grown baby and actually strangle it at birth. Or maybe even later. We still have cases like that which are still coming up all the time, where women are being forced to kill their own children and they're being thrown out of the house into garbage dumps. Recently there was a case just last year in Mumbai where this woman gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl, and they had it on CCTV. That's how people got to know. She just picked up the baby girl, went to the toilet, threw the baby girl in the rubbish dump outside, where she was eaten up almost immediately by rats. So this is in a metropolis like Bombay, in a cosmopolitan city. You don't expect it to happen. And it has skewed the gender balance in India very badly now. You know, in certain places, in Punjab, in Haryana, there are villages, there are districts where there are like 600 girls to 1,000 boys. And so it's a very scary place to be.
Kishwar, pardon my ignorance, I actually thought this was an issue that was present in India 40 years ago. I didn't realize that it's
happening right now.
It's still happening.
That's why my book is set in the present. I didn't want people to think it was, it's something which happened in the past. As recently, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, you have cases where there are hospitals in Punjab which have not registered the birth of a single baby girl. Not one baby girl has been born in that hospital. Not because only boys were born, but because those girls were made to disappear. So we now have a situation where, if you look at the statistics, and economists like Amartya Sen have worked on this, and they have discovered that today we can proudly say in India that there are 30 million missing women in India today. Women who should have been around, but who were killed off one way or the other. So anyway, as a woman, as I said, I felt very angry, and the trigger really was when I was working when I was heading this television channel, and I met this woman. It was a Punjabi channel, and I met this woman who in Chandigarh who told me her own story. She is pretty well known in Punjab, so I won't say who she is. But she met me and she started telling me that when she was a little girl, she found out that her own parents had tried to kill her at birth by giving her opium. And she grew up with that knowledge that, she had been given this overdose of opium. She was supposed to die, but she survived. And I think somewhere that story stuck in my mind, and I felt how strange and how horrible it must be for this woman to sit with her family every day and say that this is not my mother. This is actually someone who could have been my assassin. Someone who wanted to kill me, not somebody who loves me or would like to take care. So I think the story somewhere was taking shape in my mind.
But Kishwar, does that not go against a mother's nature, against human nature? Even dogs and cats, when they have little small babies, they protect them. It's something that's within. You want to protect your child. How do these mothers find it within themselves to raise a child, a fetus, in their stomach for 9 months, nurture it, and then kill it?
It's very strange. There are two reasons, because when women are asked about this, women who have done it have been questioned. One of the things, and all the women around them are supporting them in it as well. And so the supportive women and the women themselves say that it's because they want to save this child from a lifetime of cruelty. is जीवन से तो अच्छा ही है, you know, why live in this world if this is all that you're going to face, you know, all the terrible things which happen to women, and they all have very sad lives.
So they think they're better off dead.
They're better. One is that they're better off dead. The second is the oppression and fear they have from their own family if they do not give birth to a baby boy, because if you give birth to a baby girl, the inheritance gets divided up. It usually, according to the Indian tradition, she goes away into another house, so you end up looking after her entire life. But actually, she's an economic liability because you bring her up, but she goes off and she's becomes a bahu or a bride who lives in somebody else's house. So she's of no economic value to you. Why should you look after her, etc.? Then you have to give her dowry. That's the other system which we have in India, where you give dowry to the boy's family. Yeah. So she's not only an economic liability, she's a burden because you have to work your entire life in order to get her married off. So we have lots of rituals, lots of traditions which are just stacked against women.
But Kishwar, do you think that there may be a school?
And this is not to say that it is forgivable. It is not forgivable. I find it absolutely shocking and horrible that women should do it. There is no excuse, but these are the reasons they give.
Kishwar, this is an extremely interesting topic. I have some more very interesting questions for you. We'll go for a break. We'll see you shortly.
I'm afraid it has to be George Clooney. It was a murder, a series of murders actually, which are at the heart of the story.
I was reading that, it just, when you've been through that yourself, you just can't relate to it.
Why would anyone do this?
How can a mother do that?
It's already been optioned for a film, and there's British producers who are making it. But I didn't want to, I actually didn't want to get involved with it.
Danmirr Consultants present Achievers.
Welcome back. Our guest today is Kishwar Desai, author of Witness the Night. Now, Kishwar, we were talking about the little girls who are killed in India, infanticide or gendercide, before we went for a break. Coming back to your book, now, even though your book talks about a very controversial and a very gruesome and sad topic such as infanticide and gendercide, somehow you have managed to keep the audience extremely captivated, and your book comes across like a thriller. I don't know if you were thinking of it to be a thriller, but I actually thought it was a thriller while I was reading it, touching upon social injustices in India. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, exactly. I mean, I'm glad you saw it that way, because I'm hoping that people will read it as a thriller, read it as a book, and stop worrying about the issues that it raises, because I think those issues will probably sink into them anyway. That was the idea. The idea was, I didn't know that I was writing a thriller, but I just wanted to write a piece of fiction in which I could bring in these various elements, various problems. And one of the things that had happened as a thriller was because there was a murder, a series of murders actually, which are at the heart of the story. And because it happened that I took that particular angle, it turned out to be a thriller, but it was purely accidental. I didn't know that it was going to be like that, and now I'm even more surprised that it's being turned into a book series, with...
so there's going to be a book
another,
number 2.
Yes, because...
I can't wait to read it, by the way. Because, you keep wondering, I mean, I don't want to ruin it for the viewers, but you keep wondering what's going to happen with Durga afterwards.
Yeah.
But how has the response for the book been in India?
Very good, absolutely excellent. I mean, I've been very surprised that people have liked it so much. I've got a lot of emails from people who've been reading it. The reviews have been very good. And also it's been now translated into Hindi. In fact, the Hindi edition is just coming out. And I was a little nervous, actually, initially, because I said nobody in India is going to bother to read this because, this is a subject everybody knows about. I mean, infanticide, gendercide, it's on the front pages every day. So why should people worry about this? They're going to say, oh, this is very boring, this, whatever. But it didn't work out like that at all. And I was really pleasantly surprised with the response, because I'm, in a way, I know whether please is the right word to use, but I'm pleased that it's put that issue back onto the agenda. A lot of people are reading the book. A lot of people are discussing it. There are book clubs where this book... And the funny thing is that this book is set in Jalandhar, and my father was in the police, and he was in Jalandhar.
There
he
are
was
quite
posted.
a few similarities.
Yeah, well, a few things are similar, but because, the first novel, you always end up using autobiographical references. But I was very touched the other day because there was another police, a family that we knew where the parents were in the police and so on. And they read the book, and they got back to me and said how much they had liked it. And then I realized that it is touching a chord somewhere. People are reacting to it, not just because it's a novel, it's just a novel about something, but it is a novel about reality in India today. And people are reacting to it in that sense.
I had a baby girl myself recently, and for me, when I was reading that, it just, when you've been through that yourself, you just can't relate to it. You think,
why would anyone do this?
How can a mother do that?
Yeah.
So, clearly it's touched me and it's touched a lot of women out there and men, but I think being a woman, you can relate to Durga and you can relate to Simran, the character in your book. Coming to Simran, do you feel she is a natural extension of yourself?
I wish I were like that, because Simran is probably the kind of person I would have loved to be. But she's my alter ego or whatever. She's totally wild. She does what she likes, and drinks and smokes and has lots of relationships with lots of men and does whatever she feels like.
But I see her as a kind woman who could have done anything she wanted to.
Right.
But she left it all to be a social campaigner.
To be a social campaigner, that's right.
That's the Simran I saw.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, there are the other elements to Simran.
Exactly.
But...
that's what I wanted a person like her who is... Firstly, she's middle-aged. She's not a young woman. So I'm also a bit concerned about the fact that older women are being written out of literature and media and television and everywhere. It's also kind of gendercide. When you sort of, either you're killing them off at birth or you're killing them off later on in life, through not even giving their existence any sort of presence in whatever you do. So I wanted to have a woman like that who's not very attractive, who's just a regular woman, if you put it that way, but who's very brave, who has a lot of courage and is not dependent on a man for her courage. Simran is just herself. And that has been very good in a way, because she's a lot of women all over the world now, because the book is being translated now into various languages. And I keep getting this response from readers from everywhere saying that they can relate to her. She's not just a Punjabi woman, but she is a woman who is real.
A modern Indian
woman. Modern woman, exactly.
The social injustices that you have talked about in your book, they're just not limited to infanticide. You've also talked about underage sex.
Yeah.
You've talked about genderism. You've talked about sexism.
And even the lunatic asylum.
And even the lunatic asylum. I was actually going to come to that too.
Mental health.
Mental health.
Yeah.
It's in a terrible state in India. What response have you received from NGOs or other institutes like that after they've read the book?
Well, very good. I think people who've been working in these areas have been very supportive. And in fact, it was very interesting to see that not just in India, but even in Finland, the UN has picked up my book and published it there, so that, more and more people get aware of this as a women's problem. What are the issues in the developing world and so on. So I think at various levels, people are reading this book and they are reacting to it. And I can say that in its own quiet way, it's not a big book, but it's a small book which I hope will make some kind of an impact.
And have you ever considered that, would you like to convert this book into a film? Because you've always wanted to,
I wanted to,
you know.
I know.
You probably never thought I'll be making the film that I wrote.
No, actually, to be quite honest, it's already been optioned for a film, and there's British producers who are making it. But I didn't want to, I actually didn't want to get involved with it, to be quite honest, because I'm writing the next book in the series where Simran comes back in another book. And then I have another book on cinema that I'm working on. I've got so much writing to do. I've got about 3 books planned this year. And then there is another film script which somebody else has approached me to write with them. So it's all becoming so much to do with my writing and collaborative efforts that I just couldn't do anything with this book.
But maybe in the future, you never know.
I think those guys are doing a very good job.
And Kishwar, has life changed for you after writing Witness the Night?
Oh, totally. I think it's like completely changed because for one, it was just a small little book. As you know, I wrote it in 40 days and I forgot all about it, sent it to my publisher, and I was pleasantly surprised when people started reading it and liking it. And then when it won the Costa, oh my God, you know.
Such a big honor.
It is such a great, I mean, I was like totally gobsmacked.
Has it really boosted your confidence as a writer?
It has, absolutely. I mean, I honestly wasn't taking myself too seriously before this because I said, okay. But now that it's got the Costa Award, I realize, okay, that there are people who are actually reading this and saying it's got a value, so it's given me a lot of self-confidence.
But is the pressure on now?
I enjoy writing, so I don't really mind the pressure at all. I really like it. The one thing I would like to stop is if I could just lock myself up at home. That's the only thing I would love to do.
There's always Goa in monsoon.
There's always Goa.
There's always Goa in monsoon.
But unfortunately, I have to finish this book in probably the next 10 or 15 days, so I won't have time to go to Goa. So I have to finish it.
But I, for one, will wait.
Thank you.
Patiently for your next book to come.
Please wait impatiently.
Well, I'll make it impatiently then.
Yeah.
And now, just before we say goodbye, we have a little fun round. We've had quite a bit of serious conversation.
Yes.
And we have a little fun round that's called What's on Your Mind?
Yeah.
10 very quick questions, multiple choice.
Yeah.
You get 2 choices, you have to pick one.
Okay.
Should we start?
Yeah.
What's on your mind? Sarson ka saag or fish and chips?
Sarson ka saag.
Okay. New Year's or Diwali?
New Year's.
Croissant or paratha roll?
Croissant.
Haagen-Dazs or Ben & Jerry?
Ben & Jerry.
Sex and the City or Friends?
Sex and the City.
Definitely Sex and
Obviously.
the City. Saris or sarongs?
Sarongs.
George Clooney or Kabir Bedi?
I'm afraid it has to be George Clooney. That's not, I'm sorry, I feel very bad saying that, very disloyal, but yeah, I love Kabir. But
Thongs or Bridget Jones knickers?
I think now, at this age, it probably has to be Bridget Jones.
Hippie or corporate?
Hippie.
Vodka or a mojito?
Oh, both?
You have to choose one.
Okay, mojito.
Kishwar, we always ask our guests to do a little something fun for us, a special talent, perhaps singing or reciting a poetry. And I believe you have a lovely poem for us that you'd like to sing.
Well, I'm hopeless. This is the most untalented version of Faiz Ahmed Faiz, but I love him, so I'm going to try and give this a bash. And if there is a mispronunciation here or there, please forgive me, okay?
No problem.
Okay, so here goes. मुझसे पहली सी मोहब्बत मेरे महबूब ना मांग मुझसे पहली सी मोहब्बत मेरे महबूब ना मांग मैंने समझा था कि तू है तो दरख्शां है हयात तेरा गम है तो गमे दहर का झगड़ा क्या है तेरी सूरत से है आलम में बहारों को सबा तेरी आँखों के सिवा दुनिया में रखा क्या है मुझसे पहली सी मोहब्बत मेरे महबूब ना मांग
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. I don't know what you were worried about.
Well, I don't know how to sing, and considering that Noor Jahan sang this, I mean, my throat should be cut for doing this terrible thing to Faiz, but he is my all-time favorite poet, and I'm so happy you gave me a chance to sing him.
No, that was so sweet. Thank you so much. I have thoroughly enjoyed this interview. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hope you've enjoyed our very insightful chat with author Kishwar Desai. We hope to see you next week with our next achiever. Take care.
Danmirr Consultants and Professional Advice Bureau present Achievers.